presentation to sleep through. For today's presentation, I'll be going over some statistics related to ASMR. This was a recent request made in the comment of one video, so I did some research and I found some statistics. Now it wasn't ASMR on YouTube, it was ASMR on Twitch. So I'll leave a link in the description to the source that I used. But essentially this person, and how many views, how many channels, average views to channel, the different languages of the channel. So I'm doing that, except I filtered for ASMR, and so we'll look at some trends from ASMR from January 2020 through October of 2023. Okay, so let's go into the data. Okay, so as you see, this is if I go up on the column, so this is the language of the channel. So, and I took the top 8, so English, Spanish, Russian, French, Korean, German, Italian, and Portuguese. And then it went from January of 2020 all the way up through October of 2023. Now I did the average, standard deviation, outlier threshold, and I did some correlation. So, if the number of English channels increased, did that correspond with a increase in the number of Spanish channels or Russian channels, etc. So that's what, if you see the table from column AY through column BF, that's what that table is, how much the two different languages are correlated, and the number of Twitch ASMR channels. Okay, so we'll get to that in a little bit. So we scroll all the way back over to the left here. So as you can see, and also below the languages columns, I have the hours broadcast, hours watched, average viewers, then the average channels, and then the viewer ratio, so that's the viewers divided by the channel, and then the max viewers. And again, this was filtered for ASMR. Now, the numbers in rows 13 through 18, that's not specific to any language, so English, Russian, Italian, Catalan, whichever language, they're all in there. One observation I didn't notice any, Mandarin or Cantonese. My guess, and again this is a guess, is that perhaps in China they use a separate platform, so maybe that's why, that was not included. In other words, Mandarin or Cantonese was not included. I guess. I don't know though. Okay. So we go from, again, we'll go with English here. So in January 2020, there are 879 English channels for ASMR. Then it actually dipped in February 2020, and then it started increasing. You can see this is kind of related to the goof. Now I'm speaking in code here, but see the increase. So April 996, then stayed at 900, then a big jump in August of 2020, September 2020, again double what it was in January of 2020. So it increased, gets into the 2000s, up to 3,000, and then high point, a dramatic increase in January of 2022. So say went up a huge increase, and it wasn't just English. Like I say, you see Spanish, Russian, French, Korean, German, Italian, and Portuguese all had a huge increase in January of 2022. That kind of started leveling off after that, and it went back down to the 2000s. And then let's say, so the average was 3,799 channels. Average was in it for English, 932 for Spanish, 363 for Russian, 263 for French, 169 for Korean, 188 for German, 152 for Italian, and 136 for Portuguese. Again, the standard deviation. So it is interesting, that German, between Korean, German, Italian, Portuguese, German had a larger standard deviation, so there's more variance in the number of German ASMR channels. Then we have the outlier threshold. Now for the outlier threshold calculation, I use 2.5 rather than 3 standard deviations beyond the mean. So, and when looking to see if there was any outlier, again in January 2022, the number of English ASMR channels was an outlier. All the others came close to being an outlier, but English for January 2022 was the lone outlier when using 2.5 for the threshold. Okay, now for correlation, I highlighted in green the strongest correlation. So English had the strongest correlation with Russian and the weakest correlation with Korean. Spanish had the strongest correlation with French and the weakest correlation with Italian. Again, Russian, strongest correlation with English, weakest correlation with Italian. French had the strongest correlation with English, the weakest correlation with Korean. Korean had the strongest correlation with Spanish and the weakest correlation with Italian. German had the strongest correlation with English and the weakest correlation with Korean. And Italian had the weakest correlation with Korean and the strongest correlation with German. And Portuguese had the strongest correlation with Spanish and the weakest correlation with Korean. However, if you look at all these correlations, they're all above 0.7. So, a fairly strong positive correlation. So, the trend, an addition or subtraction of ASMR channels on Twitch was positively correlated across all languages, interestingly enough. So, and if we want to go down to some graphs, so, and again, this graph is a line chart, and it has ASMR broadcast channels by language, January 2020 through October 23, as you see. It's kind of trending up steadily, and then a huge spike in January 2022. Then it kind of fell off, and it kind of rose a little bit again in July 2022, and then it's been at a precipitous drop till the end of 2022, and then a steady leveling off in 2023. And that was kind of reflected also in Spanish. Spanish was, this line, and then Russian, and all the other languages, French, Korean, German, Italian, Portuguese, kind of at the same leveling off. It's interesting. I wonder what happened in January 2022 that led to the huge spike in channels. Okay, And this is the amount of ASMR hours watched by month. And like I said, this is regardless of language. So it's about, 3.1 million January 2020. It indexed at September of 2021 at 14.8 million. So the hours watched peaked before the broadcast channels offered, interestingly enough, and then as I said, kind of tailed off slightly. But the drop in channels has been far more significant than what the drop in hours watched. So if you look at the drop, much larger drop than the hours decline. Now if we look at the hours broadcast, and again this is the hours broadcast, not the channels or number of channels. So the hours steadily increased up until December of 2021. And it kind of fell off a little bit, and then it kind of put in a second top in June of 2022 and a third top in, see if I can hover over this, February 2023, and then it's kind of fallen off. But so the hours have not decreased by nearly as much, or the percentage of that. So it could be that the channel is still around or just broadcasting more consistently. Average channels are in a line in orange, and the bar chart is on the left, these figures, and then the line chart's on the right axis. So, and I wanted to see, we kind of looked at, okay, the average viewers versus the average channels. What came first, the viewers or the channels? And the average viewers peaked before the average channels. So it could be more channels or more viewers were there. So more more see it, But there is correlation between the viewers declining and the channels declining. Okay. And like I say, if you click on the link that's I'll leave in the description, if you want to search for a particular content creator, you can do that. Or if you want to look at a different period like years, or it goes into 24 hours or 7 days. Like I said, I did this by months just to kind of have a consistent interval. But I'll leave a link in the description to the source that I used. Okay, and then if we go to the average hours, so the average hours broadcast from January 2020 through October 2023 was 111,964. The average hours watched was 8,770,064. The average viewers was 12,021. The average channels was 153. The viewers averages 78 viewers a channel, and the maximum viewers in a month, or the average max, was 31,877. So those are the averages over that time period. So anyway, this is a stats MR. Wishing that your efforts have a positive correlation with the results. So long and